Good morning. I am Kevin Price. Delighted to be with you. Got a lot to talk about on today's program, and always delighted to have my friend on, Chris Corso, with the Corso Law Group. And he has just done some phenomenal, I think, very important content on a lot of different topics. We've been using him as a resource, in fact, over at HuffingtonPost.com, a great article there. And in fact, I'm in the process of writing another article that about the affluenza story from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, the teen gone wild. We're going to be using some of this information for that article for Huffington Post. And as always, Chris, glad to have you on the program. How are you, sir?
Not too bad, Kevin. It's great to be here, as always.
Real quickly, tell the listener about the Corso Law Group, and that's CorsoLawGroup.com.
Yeah, we're a defense firm, a criminal defense firm. We started off in Scottsdale, Arizona. We're in Houston also. We handle traffic tickets all the way up to heavy felony cases, DWI, and so on. And, you know, we always have a different philosophy on how to, you know, help people. I always say you represent the person, not the client, which is a dramatic difference, as we always talk about.
No question about it. I believe that sincerely, and it's the total person. You know, his family, the context, the whole 9 yards. I think it's an awesome philosophy and approach. Very interesting, very hot story for several months. For the last couple of months at least, has been the standoff in Oregon. First of all, give us a little bit of background about that.
Yeah, I mean, this is a situation, you know, and we've talked in the past about different topics, and this kind of brings it all together. It brings protesting, it brings gun rights, you know, it brings, you know, police possible misconduct and over-aggressiveness. But anyway, this is a situation where you have, you know, Dwight Hammond and his son, you know, they were convicted of arson charges, you know, sentenced to some time in prison. And then what happened was they went back and took a look at it because the state appealed it. You had an Anti-Terrorism Act of 1996 that required a minimum sentence of 5 years, and they got significantly less. So they were sentenced again, or resentenced, so to speak, and had to go back to prison. And that caused a lot of issues, and this is where the standoff happened. People were protesting, and then an armed group of you know, protesters, you know, took over a government refuge, and you know, and from there it just escalated. And you know, some of the leaders of that group, just to summarize, were in transit, and the FBI and Oregon police.
Yeah,
getting
absolutely.
shot and killed.
And there's been a lot, you know, and this isn't new. I mean, it doesn't happen all the time, but it seems like every once in a while there is a, you know, kind of a history of these standoffs, correct?
Yeah, there is. I mean, but you don't often see it escalate to this degree in so many different moving parts. That's the thing. That's why I said it encompasses so many things that we talked about when we talk about all the time, such as protesting and gun rights and things like that. You know, because there's on one hand they're protesting in one area, and then an armed group take over a place, and now the police here they come, and the FBI get involved. So it happens, but this is pretty dramatic.
Yeah, no question about it. So, kind of give us your thoughts about this, you know, and really the takeaway for the listener about this.
Yeah, I mean, what do I think about it? You know, I tell you, it's anytime you enter, you know, you come in and do something armed. And while I'm a firm believer of gun rights and the right to bear arms and so on, you know, you come into a federal a government refuge or facility and you take over. You know, my thoughts on this are that escalated to a point where, you know, we've talked about law enforcement, and I think that some of them, you know, like the Chicago case situation, itchy trigger fingers. So I think that when we talk about protesting, we always talk about keep it within the realm of, you know, some normalcy. And you start to enter weapons into it, things escalate, you know. And what are the reasons for it, you know? So I think that this just turned into something it shouldn't have been from moment one, you know. And I think the police have something to do with this too. I don't think that it's just the individuals that took over that refuge.
Yeah, it typically takes two to tangle, doesn't it? And so, I'm trying to figure out, and it's kind of outside your scope as an attorney, but it just seems to me that there's been enough of this kind of tension over the years. You think of Waco and the Camp Davidians and that type of thing, that at some point we would have learned something. But I guess there's always too many variables, because with humans there's always too many variables.
Yeah, there definitely are. People get passionate about things. But, I tell you, Kevin, the thing that really jumps off the page at me with this story is the different types of issues that we were talking about. It turned, this started off with the two people getting, sentenced, to too many years or resentenced. But then it kind of turned. Then it kind of turned into, issues about, grazing issues and agreements between, grazing fees with farmers, ranchers, and things like that, and contracts. So it kind of, it's a little odd to me how there were so many different reasons for this, and it started off one. So it makes you feel like there's an agenda somewhere.
Yeah, well, it does sound like that, and I don't know how else the family would have been able to get buy-in from others in the community unless they did something like that.
Yeah, I maybe, but again, it's one of these things that I don't know. I just feel like you're there for a reason. Look, protesting's great. I'm a believer in that, gun rights and so on, and but anytime you give especially the Fed. Anytime you give them or the local police the avenue to really take something down, they're itchy about that, and you just have to be careful. And for some of the things I'm looking at as the reasons, for doing this to escalate to this point, I don't know. I mean, it's I'm sure worth it to them, but at what cost?
Yeah. So, in terms of, and you almost get the impression that they didn't intended this to be mere protest. I almost thought they believed it was going to be a rallying point that would bring in others from other parts of the country to rally with them, which never really happened.
No, that didn't happen, which is why I'm saying, the topic involved, it may not have, touched people the way they thought it would, but then they kind of went off to the side and took over that refuge, which then, at that point it went sideways. You get a Waco situation and things like that. So, they're passionate people out there, and it usually only takes a few to, but, again, I'm not putting the blame solely on them. I mean, there's, like you say, there's enough to go around, but you got to be careful. I mean, you can't, you have passion for a topic, you got to be careful how you do it. And we talked about all this. We talked about it in the past. It brings it all together.
Yeah, it really does. So, well, and you've given counsel before on what people need to think about in terms of protest, what's appropriate, what's not, and we certainly see a lot of that here. But kind of give us your thoughts, on that. What are the takeaways that you want for the listener?
Yeah, I mean, when you start off, with an issue that you want to fight and you want to go against, know the rules, know the laws involved. It started off with a rally, a parade, that kind of thing, a march, so to speak. But, it's pretty obvious that when you start to arm yourself and take over an institution or something like that, now that seems to be pretty obvious that now you're looking for a problem, and as good as the intentions are, you just have to know what you can do, what you can't do, and you got to try to control your emotions the best way you can.
Absolutely. Very important, very practical information, and I think that people really need to know the limitations. And, and if you're involved in formally organizing a protest, to me it sounds like it makes sense to even contact an attorney before you even began to do that.
But, Kevin, why did he get shot? You see, that's the problem. Why did he get shot? I mean, he pulled him over. Nobody knows that. They're not going to release anything yet. And I hope it's not a situation like Chicago where there's a year, 2 years before we see anything, any kind of evidence. But why did he get shot? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Chris Corso, Corso, C-O-R-S-O, lawgroup.com, CorsoLawGroup.com. Thanks so much, sir.
Thank you, Kevin. Always a pleasure.
Always. Great job. When we come back, much more for you. Do want to remind you, best content here can be found over there at QSDailyReview.com. Also, great TV show on freedom that's coming up this Sunday on the TV program. Make sure you check that out. More after this.